Welcome to A Bit of Light Relief. This is our contribution to our HR fabulous community, trying to bring a bit of light.
Around, didn't you? But that's all right. Go on, carry on, yeah.
A bit of light relief.
No,
our fabulous
HR community.
Still don't know
I'm
what
so sorry.
The dyslexia kicks in yet again.
Again.
This is about us bringing a bit of light relief to our HR community, because quite frankly it is a very difficult job that they have to do out there, and we each time choose a different topic that we can discuss. We love to hear your comments and your feedback on all of this, so please do keep on sharing content that you'd like us to discuss. What are we talking about today, Kelly? So today, I want to introduce myself.
Oh, we do this every time. You'd think that in something so short we'd actually manage to get the format right, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Go on, so tell us, are you Nettie or Jeanette today?
I'm Nettie Noonar because it's a Friday afternoon.
Oh God.
Yeah.
We told you, I think I said in the last episode, that it was like a mixed bag of Percy Pigs, wasn't it?
It is.
We're not quite sure.
Never know what you're going to get.
sorts.
And actually,
Anyway.
I'm Jordan Barry Bayliss.
Kelly.
Doug. And the Dinger.
And the Dinger.
In that order.
And the Dinger is there for if we make a gratuitous plug about our businesses. So.
And actually, you know what? I'm going to say something else before we get stuck in today's topic. I'm interested in as well. We've had loads of really positive feedback about this, about just the fact it's been a bit of fun. Mm-hmm. And actually, you said something really powerful. I don't know if you want to share that in the kitchen. And I loved that, because I think it's also really important, isn't it, that we sometimes, if you are senior or you're successful or whatever label we apply to different people, you forget that there's a real person behind that. And I think we've had as much fun
We've had a lot of fun
doing this, because it's, life at the top of an organisation can be very serious. And I wonder if we actually showed a bit more personality, what the impact of that would be for the people that work for us. And I've always probably showed a bit too much personality. That's why no one will hire me, basically. But you said something.
Doing this series has given me an awful lot of confidence.
And I loved that.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, of course. And it's unfortunate that it's taken me, having many years that I've been in business, 20 years at the Curb Group, that it's taken me to sort of gain that confidence. And if I can help others with gaining that brings me deep joy. So
confidence and fun. What else?
Confidence and fun. What more could you want? Yeah. Okay. So thank you. That was a really nice.
I love you, and I thought, no, it's important, and I love that we can share that with the people that are watching this, because all of us are on our own journey, and it's very easy to just profile, typecast people and say, oh, Nettie's that, Jordan's this, and actually everyone's got a story, and actually our stories are what matter to people, and I think it's what resonates, because it's nice to hear people's stories, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. 100%.
And this one came about from a very casual observation that I've noticed in all of my clients, is that
I'll do it for you.
And I'm going to lean over. It's going to be a little bit more difficult.
That's a bit too close. Go on, Go on, Dingo, go.
Since IR35, I am now starting to see contractors on the increase in a lot of my customers, and I thought that was very, very interesting. And we started talking about this, sort of doing a little bit of prep this morning over breakfast, because obviously
we do, don't we?
Yeah.
Fly by the seat of our pants.
And we were sort of saying, about our knowledge of contractors and what have you, and actually the differing of opinions, because they're actually not called contractors or workers anymore. And then we've got to talk about the contingency workforce now.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So,
I mean, you'd be all right if we just why do we always... first question, why are we always changing these titles? You have so many titles to master as an HR person. You just get used to one, and then it's like, oh, it's this now. That's nonsense for me.
So today, we're going to talk about managing a contingent workforce.
And demystifying it.
Oh, good word.
We have to sit, though, quiet things on this, because she's got some really good
very
data.
Quietly for the last 5 minutes and let you
I can feel
okay.
final point before we hand over and we gag ourselves. I can feel a stat coming. I can feel a stat, and I can feel it bubbling, and you're just brilliant with the stat. Give us your stats, Kelly. Come on.
So I just wanted to start a little bit of scene setting. So there's over 2 million temp resources in the UK at the moment, which, if we think about that, fundamentally contributes to the economy, right?
Wow.
So there is a lot going on. It's kind of gone, interestingly, we stopped talking about it a bit, kind of gone behind the scenes, but it's starting to really rear itself again around temporary workers and what that looks like. So
the risk of that, Kelly, is that what we're talking about?
I think the risk, but also just understanding around it, what people need to be doing about it. It's one of the least talked about risks that are in businesses.
Agreed.
Because people don't know how to handle it. So they lift up that stone and they put that straight back down because it's too difficult to deal with.
Agreed.
It's also the cost
And
the amount of cost
to manage it, the risk.
No, not to manage the risk, but the cost of the contingent workforce is very often can't be quantified in an organisation. And I will talk to CPOs and say, right, what's your cost of your contingency workforce? And they have no idea.
No.
They know exactly what they're paying for the perm. They know exactly what the cost to hire it is, but they have no idea.
And it's often decentralised,
Yeah.
which is a problem. I think another stat that's interesting, 18% of businesses, and I'm going to use the word admit, because it is admit, that they don't have an effective process in place to manage that workforce.
Only 18.
But it's not 18, is it? That's 18% of people that are prepared to admit it.
It's
And it's still quite stark.
It's
Only 20% that use contractors saying they don't actually know how to manage the workforce. It's still a problem, right? And then 40% of contractors don't, but they're getting us just a kind of canvas IR35 determination, so not actually being taken through the right processes, which ultimately impacts them and their earnings as well. So I think there's some really key, quite scary things that we should be talking about today. And my biggest worry is that people don't know how to kind of open a conversation, because they're meant to be experts in HR around contingent workers or workforces, but they can't be experts in everything, and it's really difficult. There's a lot of changes. So
there's an awful lot of changes, and quite often though with contingent workforce it is often left to the line to determine what they want, how they want it, and how they're managed. And the very word managed is incorrect. In the loosest term. And so it brings a lot of as you say, a lot of lifting up a stone, opening up a new can of worms,
absolutely.
whatever analogy you wish to give. And quite often as HR people, we don't like to admit that we're not experts in this field. And do you know what? I'm not an expert in this field.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the key things, so the key topics that we talk about a lot with our clients, and I'm going to do it myself, but I didn't want to lean on Doug. I've also got one of Doug's hairs on my nose I'm trying to consciously remove, but it's just floating around.
Hair?
Someone's hair. So one of the key things that we're openly talking about with customers at the moment is actually identifying that working population, and that's one of the key starting points at any organisation.
I'm right. I'm just going to put it out there. You know,
were you going to get on your soapbox?
Wow.
You can tell, can't you?
First and foremost, what are businesses doing allowing this risk to run? Because we know, don't we? I mean, I can't remember the official stat because it's been a while since I've been in that top seat. But I seem to remember it was an exorbitant amount of your total revenue annually that HMRC can fine you for. Yeah. And I think might it be 40%? It's something like that. We can check that. We can report it with the when it actually goes live on social media platforms. But it's interesting. That was always for me. I think first and foremost, the fact that everybody has their own approach to it or lack of approach doesn't help. There's no best in class. This is what good looks like to manage. Now, I've always made a point, and sometimes to my own detriment as a CPO, of making sure we had some kind of managed process, and that either I had full visibility of that and there was some kind of regular report to me, or that sat underneath me so that we knew, because this is a huge amount of risk. And also the miscategorization, as you're saying, of people, the lack of knowledge around it is huge. And let's not also forget that the only reason that this was really introduced was because HMRC thought that people were not paying enough tax.
Yeah, but also you've got the different worker types as well. You've got, sole traders, you've got actual consultants, you've got, third party consultants, you've then got your limited company contractors, you've got your PAYE temps that also make up part of your temporary workforce. So a lot of it is that there is a lot to think about when you're planning, and actually you can't be all things to everything. But actually, where I look at the risk in generally in business, it's a huge financial risk around this as well.
you can never do it perfectly. Businesses are too big and we're too busy now. We're so busy. We seem to be busier than we've ever been. But I do question whether the output and the proficiency or the performance has had any material impact, despite the fact everybody seems to be busier. And these are the things that get missed. And we all know that, unfortunately, as people, we tend to learn when the shit really hits the fan and something goes wrong. And at the end of the day, as an HR person or anyone that's responsible for this, you can lose your job as a result of this. You'd also have a massive reputational damage if you were the person at the top of the food chain who'd, they found that 50% of their IR35 or their IR35 certification is incorrect. I mean, that's a massive statement, and that has been happening, hasn't it? Where we've seen a few of those recently, where people have been called out on it. So I think.
So you've got tax implications.
Huge.
You've got commercial implications. You've got compliance implications as well, because there's all various processes, checking UK bank accounts when payments are being made. There's lots of things like that that are also critically important in these processes.
But it's also where the responsibility lies. It's
100%.
often misunderstood, and it is with the employers, not with the agency. And the sort of all the way end user, and it's going back all the way up that food chain to say, but where was the lack of compliance, lack of checks, the mismanagement of the contingent workforce. Got it right. Where did that go wrong? And sort of, as you say, it's only when it goes wrong that then everybody says, well, why didn't HR do something about this?
And also, as an organisation, don't you really need to be able to justify who's in your business, what they do, and what they're doing?
And if
you're a PLC and you can't account for a big portion of your employee cost, that to me is bad management. And I'm not blaming people for that, but I'm saying that at the end of the day, this is something that really needs to be fixed and sorted. And it has, to me, it was always something. I always had someone that was expert on this and managed, and also did a whole point of training line managers,
it's about
and
training.
Also even the C-suite on, don't just be going off. And it's the same thing as recruitment. It's when, if leaders are really good and adept at hiring the right people, bringing them in, giving them a fantastic candidate experience, because that's the other thing. Contractors still are part of your brand. They can still talk about, I've been incorrectly categorised. I've had no kind of communication as to why I've been categorised as X and Y through this kind of that crunch tool that sometimes we often use.
But also, so just taking that, they will, because they're a contingent workforce, actually they can be the champions of your branding, actually.
That's what I mean.
Because they'll go on
like
to
a
other
poor
things.
candidate experience. It's the same thing. And
Yeah.
I've worked in businesses where line managers were so great that HR didn't have to be involved in all the recruitment process because they had to be certified before they went out. For me, it's the same process. And we know. I mean, what's HR's biggest frustration? Line managers that don't do what they're supposed to do and paid to do, and then ultimately that then falls back on HR to do. And let's be honest, would we be spending so much money on HR if line managers actually did what they were supposed to do and what they were paid to do half the time? So for me, there's something around this, because if you're bringing the wrong people in and there's no rigor and there's no process and there's no authentication around what their status is, that's a massive risk. But ultimately you're culpable. And I think if line managers were aware of the fact that goes back to you, well, ultimately the organisation, that's a big risk, and it's too much of a big risk for me to not do something about it.
Agree. But then the question's how you tackle it. So and
how would you tackle it, Kelly?
Go on. What's your top tips?
What would you do?
Come on, top
I
tips.
think
Friday afternoon.
The key thing is you start with an audit. You need to know where you're up to. So you need to know how many how many members of temporary workforce you've actually got in your business, what category of those temporary workers actually are operating under, and I think that's a starting point for anything. And that, I promise you, will unearth a huge amount for you to kind of go forwards with. The next thing is about process. So make sure you've got a solid process for each of those different types of temporary members of your workforce, because they all need a different compliance check, they all need different validations and authentications that are required. Then train your line managers around your compliance and what they need to be looking at and what they need to be doing, and making sure that you're capturing the documents that keep you safe within that process are the key things. It is a lot to do though, so ask people, speak to people that know how to do it and let them work with you. Ask for help.
Ask for help.
Help from the Curve Group.
Funnily enough, Jordan, like you said, we do audits. We do.
Curve Group do audits for IR35 contingent workers. But also, I remember one business where I was CPO, and I had an exceptional person who managed this, and it was managed by my head of recruitment. And she worked with our lawyers to make sure that every single statement of work for every contractor in the business, and admittedly it was a 600-person business, so a lot more manageable, but she was all over it. And also when
that should happen.
When the statement of work wasn't to the desired standard, we went back to the line manager and said, no, this is not good enough. We provided examples of what good looked like. This is an example of a good statement of work. This is what it needs to cover. And we did all of that. So it actually worked really well as a result. But actually line managers in the end were really grateful, because also they were clear on what their role was.
Felt protected.
But they felt protected. And
And
also,
safe when they're making
if it's
decisions.
a risk, pay someone to come in to do it properly for you, like what's it called? I've got a complete
MSP.
MSP. So in my last really big role where we had lots of recruitment going, we had an MSP, and they went through all of it, and they just massively de-risked the business because I conducted an audit. And actually, if we're applying this from a CPO's perspective, and they are concerned about risk, one of the easiest things that I always used to do in organisations, get it audited by an external third party. That's the platform for the conversation, and then something has to be done about it. And if they're prepared to then accept the risk, that's on them, it's not on you. Because as we know, unfortunately, a lot of this stuff then falls back on HR. Well, the CPO didn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And dare I say, this is one of those transactional things that is huge risk, but actually done by an expert externally is one of the best things to outsource in your business.
And as a percentage of your turnover,
yeah,
based on what you could get fined,
percentage, yeah,
invest in,
exactly.
it's an investment well made.
Right there.
So ask for
Very
help, get rid of it if you can, because
Call the Curve Group.
Too much now, too much.
No, I insist. Call the Curve Group. Even Doug said call the Curve Group.
Right, that's the £5 AOE then, isn't it? Oh god.
10. That's £10. That's £10. I'm not going to help you with your contingent.
I'm going to have a none on that now, because I feel a bit overwhelmed by it all.
Is that about
It's a lot though, isn't it?
Listening, please let us know if there's any other topics that you would like to hear about.
Yes. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for tuning in.